and get started on the middle and upper orientation portion. This section is designed to provide you with information specific to the middle and upper grade classrooms for this academic year. And I say that because it changes every year. But for this academic year, the middle classroom includes students in what you think of as traditional grade levels 5 through 8. And the upper classroom includes students in traditional grade levels of 8 through 12. Now, important information. Each student will need a communication folder. For students that are in the middle classroom, this folder can be placed, one doesn't have holes in it, but it can be placed in the binder that's listed on the supply list. This folder is very important for exchanging information between school and home, particularly, and this includes the binder too, particularly for keeping track of their math charts, Bible verses, and goal charts. These math charts are really quite essential. It was kind of fun. I was putting together this orientation, and I mentioned a math chart, and really a 10th grader said, this one right here that I keep next to my algebra book all the time. I said, yeah, that one. This math chart says grades 2 through 6, but we recommend that all students in grades 5 through 12 have one, because even the best memorizers don't always hang on to the multiplication tables they learned in 3rd grade. And my system for this is I'll share this with you about my daughter. She gets frustrated when she doesn't know something. And I don't mind sharing that about her, because it's pretty true for all preteen, teen, and high school kids. They get frustrated when they don't know something. And so I don't want to spend the entire time I have to work with her on math with her being frustrated, because then she's not learning anything. So I hand her this chart, and she says, I don't remember 6 times 4, and I get your chart. Problem solved, we're moving on to higher level math. So these are really important and essential. We have these for purchase. The price is on there. I think it's like $2 or $3. We have these for you to purchase from us. And we'll if your student doesn't have one, we'll give them one. So either way, they're going to get a math chart. And so we ask that they keep all of this stuff in that binder or your backpack. Okay, general information about how Ignition works. We use a mastery threshold. So when students are working in Ignition, they become blocked from moving forward based on certain percentages. And so these are the percentages that are going to be crucially important for you to remember. They get blocked at 70% on quizzes, 80% on they get blocked if they make less than 70% on quizzes, less than 80% on tests, and less than 90% on lessons. And that's because we want them to have that mastery before they move forward. Now, students who score less than 70% on a quiz will be allowed to retake that quiz for a better grade one time during first quarter. After first quarter, the first attempt fails. Anything above 70% on their first attempt stays. We're going to have a little bit of leeway for the kids. So for levels 4 through 6, we're going to be a little bit gentler with that than we are for 7th and 8th. And then in 9th through 12, basically it's the grade you get, it's the grade you get. Now, exceptions are the rule around here. So this policy doesn't apply to technology glitches, true technology glitches, or students that need some kind of accommodation. You all have amazing kids. No matter how good your kids are, they have to be taught accountability and good habits. 95% of the wonderful kids that we teach get complacent and nonchalant. They're not being deceitful or bad, but they will get complacent, they will get nonchalant. If they don't think, they're going to check why they miss a whole bunch of quiz questions. So we have these procedures in place, and that helps them rise to that higher standard we're working on instilling it. So this would pertain to kind of the honor roll system as well, because it's pretty easy to make honor roll and we use it as an incentive. So this helps us, as long as we're collaborating together, this really helps motivate the kids. So if a 70 to a 79 is scored on an end of unit test, the student's going to need to get with their teacher or their parent so that those concepts can be taught again. And then they can retest. We have an alternate test that they can use for that next Students working at the high school level should be working to schedule their time to get their high school courses completed. That they can't receive the high school credits for the courses until the course is complete. Our work here is self-paced, and I love that. It really lets us individualize for the kids. But self-paced does not mean no pace. Never does it mean that. Parents should work with both middle and high schoolers on a schedule where students plan to spend 3 to 5 hours a day working on their schoolwork at home. And that's going to depend on their pace. If they're super fast workers, they can get it done in 3, but they should spend 3 hours going through their lessons. Again, we have amazing kids, but they're still kids, no matter how competent and tall they seem sometimes. Aristotle says that God's solution to children developing character and discipline is parents. So it takes 3 weeks to develop a habit or a routine. So anytime your high school or middle school student gets off track, we're going to recommend, and I recommend starting this at the beginning of the school year. Take the first 3 weeks to stay on top of your students and their goal chart. If you do this consistently, we can almost guarantee that by the last year or 2 of high school, you're going to have a completely independently working student. We've seen it happen, and it's really cool. I did miss a bullet point. Parents of middle and high school students, it's an important bullet point. Parents of middle and high school students should plan to spend 30 minutes to 2 hours a day. I don't think it'll take 2 hours, but depending on the needs of your student, parents should plan to spend 30 minutes to 2 hours on each non-school day working with the students on corrections and checking to make sure that their work is complete. Even if they're a big, tall high schooler, you need to make sure you're working with them and sitting down with them to make sure their work is done. Okay. Bible is a little bit different at these levels. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the Bible works. Students working in the high school classroom, if you're in the high school literature course, then you receive credit for Bible work in that course. Because we cover Bible literature and Bible philosophy, biblical philosophy in the literature course. Okay. Students working in levels 5 through 8 will complete Bible as described in the elementary section of the orientation, but we're going to have a little bit more attention to detail, neatness, and accuracy of memorization, and getting the entries and the recitation achieved on time, because at that level, a lot of times we have deadline problems. So we're going to make sure we're having higher expectations for the kids with that. So the Bible journals, I will give them Bible journals when they come to school. I like to just give them that gift of a Bible journal when they come to school. They're line notebooks like this. And this is how we want them to write. This is the expectation that their teacher is going to have. They need to have 3 entries each week, the address, the date. It needs to be in very neat handwriting, whether they use cursive or print. That's up to you and them. We're not requiring cursive. And then the grade will also be based on whether or not they've done it on time. Okay. So for students in Mrs. Pacer's literature class, you're going to have literature folders, and those are going to go back and forth between home and school. Parents are welcome to read and discuss the literature with their students. Essays will mainly be completed at school by the student. She's going to kind of go through the essays with them and walk them through that. It will be very important that your students try to stay as close to the goal chart as possible when reading and preparing for the class discussions. This will help your students stay on track in ignition and causes less stress at the end of the quarter and lets them participate fully in the discussion, because if they're talking about something that happened in a chapter that you were supposed to read yesterday, but they didn't read it yesterday, that's not fun. Reading will be done on at-home days, and all of the questions that go with the lesson for the reading need to be completed before that scheduled discussion. When writing content-specific literary essays, it can be hard to catch up on the essay work if your kiddos get behind. And that's especially true for the high school. The high schoolers are writing kind of a weekly essay, so we want to make sure that they stay caught up, because if you get behind and you're staying caught up on the reading, but you're 6 essays behind, well, that was 6 books ago. And so you get real, it's not pretty. It happened to Julie. It's not pretty. For the science, students in levels 5 through 8 will be keeping a science notebook. We're going to furnish that to you, and that's going to be filled out during class discussion time and experiments. And it also may need to be filled out some at home. So that needs to go back and forth with your kiddos to school so that they have full benefit. This is going to make more sense when we open up Ignitia and look at it. But Ignitia schedules out the work for the year. And in some subjects, that's really, really helpful and helps you fill out their goal chart for things to do on each day. However, in the subjects where the students are doing group work here together at school, we schedule that out for you on the goal chart. And so you want to make sure that your students are following the goal chart, not what Ignitia said. They need to follow the goal chart. I've just about decided that I'm going to spend all day the first week of school, each day, saying a student's name, and they say goal chart back to me. Goal chart, goal chart. They need to follow their goal chart. And that's great for you guys too, because if they're following that closely for the subjects we're scheduling, they're going to follow it that closely for the subjects you're scheduling too. So, high school astronomy students, we're doing astronomy in our science city. High school astronomy students, I'm going to ask that you schedule their science. However, when the middle classroom is having an awesome experiment, I've included that in the high school curriculum as well. I will schedule that on the goal chart. So if there's an experiment at school, I'll have that on the goal chart that I send to you. And that way you'll know that your student needs to have that lesson done and prepared for to participate in the fun experiment. For literature, the teacher's going to be grading all of this stuff. You guys don't have to worry about that, right? We do ask that you check that they've completed it, but we will be grading it. You shouldn't be graded. In science, so we're going to work together on the science. And the same is true in the high school. We're going to ask you to grade on your days, and we'll grade on our days. And that's how we're going to do that for the science. For the history, we have discussion groups. Students in the middle group will have a set history discussion time with Mr. Clark, our history teacher, and our high school teacher. This is for broad topics in history, and it will be similar, but not exactly what their students are studying in Ignitia. For the history, parents will be responsible for assigning and grading student work. Answer keys are going to be sent out to you to help you answer that. This is also a great place to work on grading subjectively. So many of our middle and upper level courses have been designed and developed by us. We're working hard to teach the kids how to read, to learn, and express their answers in full, complete sentences. And so those types of questions and answers can be kind of subjective. The astronomy course in high school doesn't have an answer key. It's a beta course. So we're in this together. I'm going to be helping with that grading, but they do have some essay questions that will need grading for every lesson. So we're going to try and use this as an opportunity to help with the subjective grading. Even if you're not an expert in history or high school astronomy, you can tell the difference between a reasonable answer and something way out of left field. If an answer seems reasonable, just give it full credit. If it seems questionable, this is a good opportunity to let your student teach you and explain what they meant by that answer. And if maybe why they struggled with coming up, Hogan and I don't know, and we try to teach the kids really fast. I don't know, not acceptable on any question. So I don't know means you need to go find the answer. So, but often if you're talking to them about their answer, then they might come up with a good, reasonable answer to you out loud and just give them full credit. Language arts. High school parents don't have language arts because we're doing all of the language work in our literature course. But for 5 through 8 in language arts, you're going to, parents will complete those, like fill out the goal chart for those goals, and they'll just follow Ignition. Don't have to worry about whether we're going to be doing something together, just follow the goals in Ignition. Unless there is something on your goal chart that week that Paper wants them to do as a group, and she's going to grade that. And then, of course, always, we're going to do this as well. Check that it's complete and initial done, or initial the goal chart, and I'll show you how that works in a few minutes. For the math, same exact thing. Parents are going to fill out the goal chart, grade the work on their at-home days. You'll notice here, watch math videos. So there's videos throughout Ignition, and some of them are great, and some of them are not really good. And for the kids, of course, the math videos are the least fun things to watch. I don't want to sit and watch a video about math, but they're the most crucial ones for them to watch. So if your student is struggling with a math concept and you go to grade their work and you see, well, you got a 50% on this, let's go check and see if there are some videos. Then sit and watch them with them, because they're good kids. They're not trying to be deceptive. But if you walk away, they'll say, I got it. I don't need to watch this video, and answer the question wrong again, because they are children. So Ignition is our digital curriculum that we use. There's a fairly steep learning curve when you first start using Ignition, especially if you jump into it with all of your courses and you've never used it before. But it's a wonderful program, especially for individualizing. In those documents that I either emailed you or I'm going to email you tonight, there are several tutorial videos that tell you how to go in, how to fill out the goal chart, how to grade student work. We're going to go over some of that tonight, but some of those videos don't really make sense until you're a week into school and your student has done work for you to be grading. And then you can go, oh, there's a video, and you go and watch that video, and it should explain everything you need to know. Now, this is our progress report that we send out every quarter, along with the grade cards for students in levels 5 through 12. This tells you where your student is in terms of course progress and where they need to be if you want them to finish by May. I don't always plan it that way. I do math in the summertime with my students because I don't have time to teach math during the school year. But if you want your student to be finished with their high school credit by May, this is your target, and this is where they actually are. And if you want your student to get caught up, we're going to spend those 3 weeks sitting on top of them and making sure that they're working. And if anybody ever has any questions about this, just let me know, but you'll get one of these every quarter to know where your students are at. Okay. So this is a list of the parent responsibilities you have as a homeschool teacher. We will do all of these things too on school days, and these are the things you only do at home. So each week, you're going to complete a goal chart, either for or with your students. Younger grades, fill it out for them. That's fine. They're just learning how to read it. Older students, we're going to recommend that you maybe sit and fill it out with them, because as they get older and get up into high school, they're going to have all kinds of activities, and they're going to need to know how to schedule schoolwork and around all of their other stuff. Then you're going to learn how to use Ignition as your student's primary teacher, supervise your student as he or she works, answer and ask questions to help your students find the answers on their own. You'll need to reassign missed questions on lessons, make sure the corrections are made by the student, rescore and become involved if the answer is still incorrect after the second attempt. After 2 attempts, the lesson gets blocked, and that means that you need to find out if you need to reteach something or reinforce better habits. Encourage the students to keep up with their work and contact the classroom teacher. Please, please, please don't hesitate. Text, email me or Ms. Pacer, because our job is to help your students succeed. This is kind of a checklist I came up with just to help you as you get started. What do I need to do each day of the week that's not school? So check Ignition messages, and don't worry about that very much, because most of the time Ignition messaging isn't keeping up with our better communication of texting and emailing and that. But sometimes your students will send you a message or a help message. And that's a good way to go and see what the first thing that you need to look at. Second thing you'll need to do is check the goal chart. And we have goal charts for each one of you. I don't have the older kids, I have the little kids. But one of our systems is that anything that they don't complete at school for whatever reason, we use a highlighter to make a box around that subject on the goal chart. That way, students and you know that they need to complete that first before they start on the next day's work. Then we also like to suddenly can't speak English. We also like to initial in the bottom right-hand corner when they are completely done. That does not mean after they did the lesson. That does not count as, please don't have the word done. Oh, but the older ones do. Okay. It does not count as officially done until they have a green check mark. And that'll make more sense when you're working through it. So that's checking the goal chart. You also have the ability to run a daily activity report, and that helps you just go in really quickly and see what subjects did my kid complete today. Okay, I need to go check on those. And that information is in the tutorial videos. Under gradebook, you're going to use gradebook to reassign and unlock each subject for your students. Plan to sit with your students for at least 30 minutes each non-school day to work through the corrections on what they're studying. The last thing in the orientation document are these completion signatures. So once you get that document, if you will read through that carefully, make sure you don't have any questions, and then there's a link to go electronically sign your name if you have completed this orientation process. My last note before we start looking at your individual goal charts and filling things out for your kids. We're finding that it's going to be best if you log in with your student when you're doing that daily check and you're filling out goal charts for the week, because you may not have access to every course, and that kind of simplifies the grading that you're doing, because if you're looking at 6 subjects, we're grading some of them, you're grading some of them, it can get really overwhelming. So right off the bat, you don't have teacher access to all of the courses with your students. If we're doing all the grading, there's no need for you to have the teacher access and add it to your plate. However, we're happy to give you access. However, it's better to do it this way to start with. And then if you're opening up your students, what your students see, that actually helps teach your students to make sure they've actually completed the goals. Because just inherent, they go in, they do the lesson, they click the turn it in button, they're done. That's not the case. So it really helps if you'll go in and look at their side as well as your side as you're checking those goal charts and filling them out for the week. So for younger students, you can log into their account and check that they've done everything fully, and you'll be able to assign corrections.